What is up, y'all? Today I am doing what every WizTuber does, and I am making a world tier list. It is the 1st of January, Happy New Year, so everyone's going to be watching those Wizard101 in 2026 videos, and then after that, they're going to click on this one. So welcome. Of course, everything I say in this video is purely factual and not just my opinion, so do not feel free to disagree in the comments. I'm ranking these largely based on 3 criteria: aesthetics, story, and most importantly, the gameplay. Gameplay includes things like whether the difficulty is appropriate for the level, any annoying battles, uh, how convenient it is to travel around the world, and the pacing. So starting off with Wizard City, I think it's a great world. You can't really ask for much better of a start to the game. It does a great job of putting you into the world of Wiz and introducing you to the mechanics. However, my opinion on this world varies a bit depending on if we're talking about the new version of Wizard City or the old version. I think the Wizard City revamp was kind of a mixed bag as far as if it was a good thing or not. Obviously, graphically, it looks way better, more clean, but aesthetically, I prefer the old look, and I don't think that's just nostalgia. I think I like it because it just has more detail and a somewhat like gritty look that gives off that mysterious vibe, which I think is lacking a bit from the current version. But that said, I totally understand if you like the new version more. Aside from visuals, the revamp made the very beginning flow better and a lot more user-friendly, and that is certainly a good thing. Some of the other changes, though, just felt so unnecessary and forced, and that's really my main gripe with the new Wizard City. I want to shoot myself in the face every time I have to do that pet quest in the tower. If this was the old Wizard City we're talking about, I'd maybe consider putting it in S tier, but for the new one, it's gonna barely go in A tier. I think anything else about it that would maybe put other worlds down a few tiers can be largely attributed to it being the very first world, so I'm not going to hold that against it. So moving on to Crocotopia, this is a world that I like to hate on a lot, but it's really not that horrible to play through. I think it's just a really poorly designed world. It has very little variety in gameplay, its story is extremely boring, and the aesthetic is really the only thing keeping it somewhat in question. Crocotopia has some of the strangest pacing in the entire game. Tell me why this world is comprised of the Pyramid of the Sun, a very short area, followed by the Crocosphinx, which is like 60 or 70% of the world, I swear, followed by the Tomb of Storms, which is literally just, what, 2 bosses and 2 relatively short dungeons? And I feel like it really says something that with a world as short as this, if it were any longer, it would suck more. And I just cannot put this world any higher than D tier. Now, I think Marleybone might be the most overrated world in the game. Pretty much everything about this world sucks. This is really true for every world in Arc 1, but Marleybone I think by far has the worst case of every area looking the exact same. It is so dry going through Marleybone. There is no visual difference between Hyde Park, Chelsea Court, the Ironworks, Knight's Court, Newgate Prison, and Katzenstein's Lab, other than their set pieces, most of which are boring and forgettable. Which sucks because I would have loved to spend more time on the ground in Marleybone instead of every single zone being on the rooftops. Not to mention how crappy it feels to walk around the streets of this world. And the pacing is some buns. It's like 70% dungeons, which like would be fine, but if I don't have anyone to quest with and I don't feel like soloing the 4 dungeons in a row that you have to do, I gotta rely on people in team up, A, existing, and B, having a functioning brain, which is unlikely. So the whole Marleybone experience after Chelsea Court is usually dreadful. However, I think that Marleybone has quite a charming aesthetic that stood the test of time and a surprisingly engaging story. So I'm gonna have to begrudgingly put it in B tier. This will probably be the bottom of B tier though. Oh, Mushu. I have a love-hate relationship with this world. The aesthetic should theoretically be very cool, but instead what you get is just miles and miles of JPEG bamboo. It's really not used as much as it could be. I don't think even a graphics update would make this world not visually boring. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some really cool looking areas in Mushu, but those areas are hardly utilized. Cave of Solitude, really cool. But guess what? There is only one time that in the main story you have to interact with anything on these cool ass rock pillars. And it's not even a fight, you're just clicking on a brazier. Words can't describe how refreshing it would be to reach this area if you fought like a boss or something on the rocks, but no. And if you do decide to walk across these, you will soon notice how annoying it is because of the way they design the collision. And that's an issue you will see all throughout Mushu. This world is so annoying to navigate, and is the sole reason that I included that in the criteria. Everywhere you go, there's shit in the way, and you gotta walk out in front of the mobs to get around it. And half the time it's just decoration, you can't even interact with it. And guess what? The teleporters in this world are placed horribly. Never in my life have I been questing through Mushu, gotten a quest, checked the map to see which teleporter I should use, and went, oh yeah, perfect. Never. They're always inconveniently halfway between two quest objectives. And I don't know why this happens. Maybe it has something to do with the geometry of Mushu's areas. But half the time when you go through a teleporter, the quest arrow will rage bait you. It'll turn around and do a double backflip before it tells you where you need to go. The only thing I kind of enjoy about questing through this world is that the devs just seemingly gave up when making the last two areas, so they're like 40 minutes combined and you're just done with Mushu. Tree of Life's like 3 battles. The story is somewhat good, but nothing to write home about. I'm gonna smack this world in C tier. Dragonspire. I'm a big Dragonspire apologist. I think this is easily the best that Arc 1 has to offer. Stakes are high, it's challenging but not annoying, and I think it looks pretty cool. I think this is the world that would benefit most from a graphics update, but I think they did a great job making this world visually, architecturally interesting with the graphical limitations of the time. I think this world suffers the least from the every area looks the same issue in Arc 1, because every area has some super cool and dramatic set piece that you actually spend time in or near. The only part of this world that really ever bores me is the labyrinth. That's really the only thing dragging it down and keeping it from being an S tier world. I know there are many better worlds nowadays, but I think this is the peak of the original formula that they had for worlds back before cheating bosses and crit and all that. It's a perfect ending to Arc 1 and really satisfying to beat. A tier. Now we'll cover the side worlds real quick. Wisteria is such a nothing burger world. I want to make a whole video about why this world sucks so much, but in short, it's really underwhelming. It's really short. It's really easy. There's no reason to do it. The story's cool. The aesthetic's cool. I like it, but it just averages out to be really mid. I'll put it above Mushu though. I have a pretty different opinion on Grizzleheim Part 1 from Winter Tusk, and I think that's a pretty common thing. Grizzleheim Part 1 is a unremarkable world. It's fine. It's fun-ish. It's a little bit too easy for the level that it's recommended that you do it, so I'm kind of glad they got rid of that requirement. The aesthetic's cool. The story is sometimes cool. Like the lore of it is cool, but like from quest to quest it's kind of boring. There are some hype moments in Aura though, so that's cool. And I mean, it leads you to Winter Tusk, so how bad could it be? I'll put it in B tier just above Marleybone. Winter Tusk, on the other hand, is one of my favorite worlds in the entire game. Mostly because it's actually challenging and it's fun, and it's a good length, and it feels so rewarding. The amount of XP you get from it, especially after the amount that Grizzleheim gives to you. This is a really good world. The music is amazing. The aesthetic is awesome. It's peak. It's so peak. It's so peak. Aquila is kinda hard to talk about since it's not really like a proper world, but hey, I'll include it. I mean, it's the aesthetic's cool. The story is there. I mean, I guess a lot of it's just the Immortal games and whatever. I don't know. I never really paid attention to it. And the gameplay, of course, is some of the hardest stuff that we have, which is, it's always good to have a challenge. I don't think any part of it's like particularly annoying. So I can't really complain about anything. I mean, I'll put it in A tier. Sure. Alright, now that the side worlds are over with, I'll stop using the word cool, I promise. Let's move on to Arc 2. Celestia is a very underrated world. There's a lot that I like about it. The idea of mixing aliens and astronomy with Atlantis is honestly genius, maybe my favorite concept for a world that there is. And although the graphics are dated, it really has such a nostalgic and whimsical feel to it. I think because it somewhat resembles like those astral decorations over a baby's crib in some areas. It just awakens some deep, deep nostalgia. It's almost dreamlike. And aside from all that, it just really feels great to get to Celestia. The start of a new arc, you just hit a massive power spike, and the enemies are actually defensively a bit weaker than in Dragonspire, so it's really smooth. There are just two things in my opinion that hold this world back. The story and the last two areas. The story feels very disconnected from the plot. I always find myself asking, why am I here? What's in it for me? Why am I helping these damn dogs? At least in Krakatopia or Mushu, even though it got sidetracked a million times, you had a goal in mind. You really don't get much like that in Celestia until the very end where they introduce Morganth. And I feel like they should have set up for her reveal way more. And as for the last two areas, they just absolutely suck to go through. The Science Center has you fighting the same two minions over and over and over again, and then the Crustacean Empire has so much walking, even with the updated teleporters. But overall, honestly, I'm gonna give Celestia a low A tier. Pretty solid. Zafaria is another underrated slash overhated world in my opinion. Especially nowadays, it's really not that bad. If you have Waterworks or Zigzag or Atavistic gear, it's very smooth sailing, and I think it has a healthy number of cheap bosses. It has some really nice looking areas, and graphically it's a significant step up from Celestia. The endless Greyhorn mercenaries are basically my only complaint. Good world. High B tier. Avalon is an incredibly average world. My feelings towards it can be summed up with, it's cool, I guess. The vibes are immaculate, of course, but that's kinda all there is to say. The story is good but inconsequential, the gameplay is pretty run of the mill, and this is the first world that feels just a little bit too long. You're gonna have to put it in B tier. I'm not gonna spend too long on Azteca either. You've heard it before, we all know the gameplay of this world sucks. The story is certainly interesting towards the end, but for the vast majority of the world, it's forgettable. The aesthetic is actually pretty okay. This is the first world that doesn't really look dated at all. However, I'm still not that big of a fan of it because so many of the areas just feel claustrophobic. I can feel the humidity through the screen. Maybe you could argue that's good immersion, but it's just kinda unpleasant to play. I'm actually not gonna give it F tier, believe it or not, because with the lowered health, it's not as bad anymore, but it's gonna go in the bottom of D tier. Now, Chrysalis, maybe this is a hot take, but I think it's a great world. Part 1 does have a lot of the same issues as Azteca, but in my opinion, it's not quite as bad, and Part 2 more than makes up for it. If I was just ranking Part 2, it'd probably be S tier. This is where the story actually starts to get really good. If you're just spamming the spacebar through the story, this might be the first time you've locked in since fighting Malistaire. Plus, I gotta give it props for introducing the character in the game with the most aura by far, Grandfather Spider. It also has one of the most interesting aesthetics of any world. You can't really pin down what it is, but it's awesome. It's edgy, and it's gray, and it's evil. Chrysalis is one of my favorite worlds. I'm gonna have to put it in A tier. I'm thinking right above Dragonspire. Okay, this is where I start having less to say about each world because I haven't played them through as many times. In fact, I've only played through Arc 4 once, so keep that in mind. I also want to say, I think Arc 3 is probably the strongest arc in the game, so let's get into that. Starting off with Polaris. I love Polaris. Everyone loves Polaris. It's got a good theme. It's got a good story. It looks good. And the music is good. Everything about this world is good. It's fun, and the bosses no longer rely on having a million health like in Arc 2. Easy S tier, probably the best world in the game. The Arcanum is not a world. I'm not ranking it. Mirage is a somewhat forgettable, but honestly pretty good world. It feels populated, it feels alive, despite being very barren. The immersion is immersive, and the characters are great. If you think Mirage is just Krakatopia Part 2, I think you're dumb. I have no issue with this world. I'm putting it right here. Now, Imperia is where the writing takes a significant turn, and I honestly think it's for the better. It's one of the most memorable worlds in terms of story, and really feels like a journey and like a finale. Although it's a short arc, but still feels like a finale. Not a lot of worlds can do that. It's quite varied in terms of aesthetic, but for the most part, it still somehow feels cohesive. My only minor gripe is it can be a little frustrating to solo with the number of cheating bosses, but A, skill issue, and B, I don't think it's enough of an issue to detract from it being an S tier world. I'm not that big of a fan of Caramel. I'm not a big fan of the vibe of it. It's kind of insufferable, especially with all the singing. It's a little annoying. Same with the battles in it. A lot of the cheat bosses are just kind of insufferable. The theme of like corporate greed, like, okay, that can be good, but they don't really do it in an interesting way. It feels kind of overdone. And a lot of the areas honestly look kind of gross, but it's not the worst world. I'll probably put it right here under Marleybone. Lemuria is a world that no one really likes because it's got a lot of reused assets, which, is lazy on the devs' part. But if you look past that, which I don't blame you for not looking past that, but if you do look past that, it's not really that bad of a world. I found it really fun. I found it much more enjoyable than Caramel. So, like, if it didn't have to do with the reused assets, it might be like up here-ish. But with them, I don't know, man. This is like, it's like a C tier. It's not great. Okay, Novus is similar to Lemuria in some ways, but it's a little more interesting as a concept. The new world, the colonizers. It's a cooler concept, but by this point, the whole like conglomeration of different worlds or different areas is kind of getting old. You had Lemuria and you had Imperia, and now we're having Novus. It gets a little old by this point, but it is a fun world with good characters and a good story, so I can't really hate too much. I'll put it like I'll put it right there. I don't think I can put it any higher than B tier, but I think it's better than most of these worlds right here. So, yeah. Wallaroo is somewhat unremarkable. It doesn't really feel like a finale the way that the other arc finale worlds do. This feels like it should be a random world in the middle of arc 2, but if I'm to judge it just as a world in itself, it's good, it's fun. There are some annoying bits, but overall, it's not really too bad to quest through. I mean, you get your Wallaroo AoE, that's fun, that's fun. But I just don't have a whole lot to say. Nothing really sticks out about Wallaroo to me. The finale of Wallaroo is even in Novus. I mean, I feel like we can all agree that Novus should have just been the last world, but it's okay. Um, I'll put it right around here. That seems fair to me. Selenopolis is good, but I feel like it could have been a whole lot better. I mentioned earlier that Krakatopia is kind of carried by its aesthetic, and they kind of took the Krakatopia aesthetic and expanded on it, which is great, but I feel like to go along with that, the quest line could have been a lot better. It's okay, but there were some repetitive bits and some annoying bosses. It's not the most fun thing, and you don't even get XP for it. I understand that, but like you don't get much gold either, so it's not very rewarding. But it's it's cool. I like it. Okay, I like it. It's not that fun, but I like it. Where am I putting this? I don't think it deserves A tier. I'll put it honestly, probably right above Zafaria, then below Novus. And then oh my god, Darkmoor, such a step up. It's such a good world. This world is pretty peak. It's so fun. The vibes are immaculate. The fights are fun and they're not really annoying. There's the whole age dicker thing, but that's whatever. That's really separate from the world itself, I feel. I really think this is probably one of the best worlds they put out in general, but especially in recent years. I'd probably put this right. Hmm, it's between these two spots, honestly. I mean, maybe in a few years I won't feel so strongly and that hype will die down and it'll be like an A tier. But honestly, I'm feeling like putting it right here. Maybe even here above Imperia. I don't know. I'll put it right here for safety and I'll call that good. But yeah, I'm not going to rank these ones because they're not really worlds. That is all for today. Leave your comments if you violently disagree with me, or if you violently agree with me, you can do that too. That would be cool. But otherwise, I will see y'all in the next video. Peace out.